I'd like to talk to you about building a budget PC for very casual gaming, but mostly just for um, browsing the web, YouTube, things like that. So not everybody is playing, the latest games, so they really don't need that much power. So what I'm going to do here today is build this budget PC using a lot of different parts that mostly I had laying around, but a few of them that I purchased. So for example, this case is a Lenovo S20. It's pretty bare bones, and it's pretty bare bones because my other Lenovo S20, I have two more. One of them, when I moved my office, for some inexplicable reason, the power went out. It's a very bizarre thing. I always put them not just on surge protectors, but on battery backups and that one even has line conditioning. So it's crazy. Don't know what happened, but it did. So I started looking for another power supply for my Lenovo. And they're very expensive. But I found this with a power supply in it. I took it out and put it in my other Lenovo, as I was just talking about. But I thought, okay, I'm just going to buy another S20, and it has the power supply in it. And if I ever need anything else, like a cooler or any kind of wiring, even a motherboard, I'm already going to have it. So much better value for me. So I did that, and this is what I got, but I already took the PSU out, put it in another computer. So after that, it sat around for a while, and I came across Lenovo power supply, for S20 for a really good price. And being the tech guy that I am and loving to work on computers a lot, so I said, hey, I'm just going to buy that power supply and rebuild this thing and perhaps give it to a family member or something like that. So we'll see who gets it, but right now we're just going to work on putting this thing back together. So a few things that I've already done to prepare. You can find videos for these online. Perhaps I'll do a couple in the future, but today I'm just trying to save a little time. So whenever I get a new computer, if it's an older computer, one of the first things I like to do is pull the cooler out and replace the thermal paste, especially on an older computer. It's really a good idea to do that. It's usually dried, and you're not going to get optimal performance out of your CPU. That's especially important when we're talking about an older computer, which is already a little bit slower than most of your newer computers. Not all of them, but so I said, okay, we're going to do that. But I took it a step further, and I took the older CPU out and put in one of the best CPUs that this motherboard would accept. So we went from a bench score of 3,500 approximately to about 7,000, 6,500 to maybe 6,800, so almost 7,000. And so we really upgraded there. We went from 4 cores, 8 threads to 6 cores, 12 threads. So we gained a lot of CPU power. So we've already done that. I believe everything went well. The other thing I did is I purchased a PNY SSD. I picked it up for about 30 bucks. It's a really good value to go with the SSD All your newer systems are going to have those, but these older systems didn't, and this was bare bones, so it had nothing. Under the SSD, I stuck an old hard drive in there. It's only 160 gigs, but you know, this is not going to be a system that needs a lot of storage. If it does, they can add it. Someone can add it later, but I just thought, you know, I'll get that in there, give a little extra, and then 500 gig Western Digital. So already put them in the caddies. They're ready to go. Now, these Lenovo S20s are good systems, but one of the only things that I don't like about them is they don't have any USB 3 support. So I had this card laying around. I was going to use it for a different build. Ended up not doing it, and since I want whoever receives this to have USB 3 support in case they need it for maybe some external drives or whatever, we're just going to throw that in there. Got to get power, so we added an extension on here to attach to a SATA. One more thing I like to do is to have a little bit more case flow. So we've got an Arctic 90mm that's going to go here in the front, and we're going to improve case flow just a little bit. This case did not come with a DVD drive, so I have quite a few of these laying around because whenever I junk a system, I try to pull apart the system and take anything that could possibly be used in the future. And what do you know, this is a DVD-RW, perfectly good drive. So there you go. We've got also 12 gigabytes of memory from another computer. So again, I don't like to throw things away, so I pulled that memory out of another Lenovo that was upgraded from 12 gigabytes. There are 6 slots in here, so it had these 12, or had 6 2 gigabytes modules. I upgraded to 6 4 gigabyte modules, and so here I have the old 2 gigabyte module. So this system's only going to have 12 gigabytes, but that's not too bad. 12 gigabytes for most people is going to be great. I can't think of too many normal situations where people would need more than that. You're not going to need it to surf the web. You're not going to need it to watch videos. You're not going to need it for light gaming. You're just not going to need that much power. So 12 gigabytes ought to get them by just fine. And the good thing is that if you replaced 2 of these in the future, it would only cost you about 20 bucks. And if you replace them with 4 gigabyte modules, now you have 8 plus 8, you're up to 16, and you can do anything with 16, short of like heavy video editing and things like that. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the power supply. You see it's very accessible back here, so we're just going to drop that in there. We'll fire up my other camera here, give you a bird's eye view. My other camera is my phone. So, but it works, right? So let's slide this over here, see if we can get a good view on there. And here we go. So this is one of the reasons I like the Lenovo S20s and S30s is the power supply. So this one on the S20 is an 80 plus bronze and 625 watts. So very good power supply. As you can see, cable managed very well. Also has two, has a 6-pin and an 8-pin. So you could run a heavy duty older card on it. You could run a newer one, but it's going to be CPU bound. So yeah, why would you do that? So we're going to drop this nice power supply in here. Just be careful dropping it in there. It lines up really nice. As soon as you slide it back, it clicks in. We're going to drop the screws back in. Get it mounted good. Yeah, the power supplies on these, not only are they good, but you know, the entire system is just so well made. It makes working on them a pleasure, and I've very rarely had any problems. I was shocked when that power supply went out. Still don't know what happened, but it had worked for many years, and when I moved my office, yeah, so weird. Had that happen to a monitor one time. Went on vacation, monitor was working perfectly. Come back a month later, the monitor doesn't work. I'm like, some things are just impossible to explain. And you might think, oh, well, there were some power problems while I was gone. No. I unhook everything when I go on that kind of an extended vacation. Everything is unplugged, so there's no possible way that there was some power issue. So now we're going to hook up the board here. And you'll see these have a 10 and a 4 pin for the board here, motherboard power. That's really good. So it's just such a well made and heavy duty system. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a Lenovo fanboy, and the reason is my first computer was an IBM, and IBM sold the rights to their PC business to Lenovo. So that IBM, I'm still working on the video. I completed the video, but I need to post it. I don't know if it'll go before this one or not, but that IBM I bought in 1997, I believe. It was either 97 or 98. And I used it about 2 years, and with the rapid progress of things back at that time, by then I was able to buy a much better, faster computer, and it was for my business, so I needed it. But I just did a video of a computer that had been sitting for like over 20 years. It'd been sitting for about 21 years, and it started up without any problems. It still works. It's old and it's slow, and I don't know what you could possibly do with it, but it does work. And I got over here I can show you. When I went to China in 2006, I believe it was 2006 that I bought this, and it's a Lenovo. And again, I used it for a couple of years, and I bought another computer. But I recently upgraded that one with a newer processor, and it still works. It's running Windows 10. You can surf the web. You can do a lot of stuff on it. Watch videos. So Lenovo's are really good computers. I've got several more that I use. So enough about that. We've got the PCU in. We've connected it to the motherboard, so everything's ready there. Let's spin this little case around, and we need to get in the memory. So 12 of them. If you're not going to be putting them in every slot, then you should read the instructions, the manual for your particular computer, to figure out if you need to put them in a certain order to get the most out of them. Some computers are in channels. Some computers want you to put them in specific slots. So yeah, check out your computer. But if you're gonna put matching modules in every slot, and you're not gonna have to worry about that. And I usually like to fill all the slots, and preferably with matching. Sometimes you can't, or you can, but you don't want to spend the money because you already have the modules. So I do that sometime. Usually don't have any problems. So there we go. We got the memory in. Let's slide in this DVD. Now the DVD is really easy. It's just going to slide in here at the top. Forgot you got to pull the front off. But we got to do that anyway sometimes. So let's pull that off. Put that in there. There we go. Now we got that in there. We're going to cable manage this little deal because we're not going to use it. And we're going to use this one to hook up that DVD, and we got an extra one if we ever need it. If you're not going to use it, you should probably cable manage it. I'm not all about perfect cable management, but I'm also not about having like really poor cable management. So having a good balance is nice. Don't be too neat, too sloppy. Alright, we're going to drop that fan in there. So if you ever wonder how the fans go, check the case fan. So the air usually flows through this way. So I like to put this in before I put the other stuff in, because when it gets crowded sometimes it's hard to reach, especially with my all thumbs hands. So let's reach in here, and on this case they have a PCI fan here, which is just fine for me. So we're going to throw it right there. It's a 3-prong, fits perfectly. So there we go. Got some screws here. Get that fan in there. It's like working on a lot of things. You don't want to tighten everything up until you got them all aligned. Find that when you're working on a lot of equipment. It's not always lined up as perfectly as you think. And with some things like the coolers, CPU coolers, you want to tighten them, diagonally. Put it all down and then tighten one corner, then the opposite corner, and so forth. That helps ensure you get a better spread. Alright, I believe we can put that back on. Sure you get it lined up nice. Those plastic tabs are one of the things I don't like about the cases. I don't know what they can do about it, but they will break. So careful there. Alright, so let's drop in one of these. Yeah, this case included one SATA cable. Woo. But still one. A little bit of cable management here. We're going to run it through whole. I've done a lot of these. The ones I bought and the ones I've done, I run through this thing. It just seems to be the place. So we got that. Now we're going to need a couple more SATA cables. So we're going to plug, and it's already in number one. So we're going to plug the SSD into the first slot, or first SATA. And I'm actually going to switch that cable. Don't need to, but I often like, just for visual reference, to use a red SATA for the first drive, which is usually my SSD. It doesn't matter really, but I just like doing it. And it does help if you ever go back in there and you need to move stuff around and whatnot. It's a lot less confusing because you know which one is number one. So there we go. Got that on one. There we go. Alright, now we can hook the power up. A little bit tight here. Make sure you get them in good. You don't want loose power. That could cause problems. And there we go. Double check them all. Make sure we got them nice and tight. Alright, need one more cable here. So we're just going 1, 2, 3 right down the line here. And I could have cable managed that better. I'm going to take another shot at it. This cable was already under here. I don't really love that. Take another shot. We're going to run it over here. Get it away from that fan. And same with this one. Fan. And this one is already away from the fan. And we need one more long one. So let's see, yeah. So we need one more long one. We have to do the DVD drive. Oh, not a lot of cable management there, but not in the way of anything. Looks good. I'm going to move that fan though. There we go. All right, so we have the DVD hooked up. We have all of our hard drives hooked up. We've installed the fan here. Now we're going to drop this 4-point USB 3 in. That's going to give somebody a more modern USB interface there. There we go there. All right, got the memory in. We're getting close to the home. So, looks like we're all set up. Now, the only other thing we've got is on these, there are no video outs. So you have to have a graphics card. So that is the last thing that we have to do. Now, this isn't the kind of computer that I would put a lot of money in, a graphics card. I mean, I might go as high as like a 960. So a 960 is still a good card. Now, it's not going to play, you know, the modern titles, but just about anything else. My daughters play Genshin Impact, and a 960 will play Genshin Impact just fine. They only recommend, their recommended card is a 1060, and that's not a huge leap from a 960. So a 960 is a good card. And you have 5 ports, or there you got 3 display ports, and you have DVI, and you even have an HDMI, so that's good. I'm not going to put that in this system. I'm going to go back a little further. Now this is an amped up version of the AMD, I believe 360, yes, R7 360. Has 2 DVIs, has DisplayPort, and has HDMI. So plenty of connection options. Another thing, not all of the 360s have a 6-pin connector. It has a 6-pin connector because it's being overclocked. So is that going to make it like some stupendously great card? No, it's a 360. But it is a very, you know, usable card for a system like this. So if you wanted to play games, I've actually installed this on a system for testing and had my girls play Genshin Impact, and it worked pretty good. So depends on what you're going to play and what you're going to do with the computer. If you're not going to do more than play a specific title, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to put a huge amount of money into it when you can put together a system like this for... Now granted, I used a lot of my own parts, but short of the parts, I had 30 here. I had, I believe, a little less than 40 for the power supply. So 30 for the SSD, about 40 for the power supply. I already had the memory, but it's not expensive. And the case was something that I bought for another purpose. I only paid $100 for the case with the other power supply. So let's just say I didn't need a power supply and I bought the case for $100 with the power supply. I picked up a $30 SSD and I had to pay for the memory, which would probably only be another $20 or $30, something like that. You're not looking at much more than $200, except for the well, I did have 17 on the CPU, so the card I believe would probably be about $50 right now. So for a really good computer that's going to last a very long time and probably not have any problems at all, that's a pretty good deal. And you can do better. I've seen these systems go for pretty good price online. So if you were looking and you know tried maybe auctions, stuff like that, you might get it even cheaper. So there we go. Now we got a R7 360, got an SSD, we got an upgraded CPU. This is a usable computer, and I could use this to do the work I do. Would I? No, because when I start doing certain tasks using photo editors and video editors and things like that, that's gonna be a problem. It's not gonna, it'll work, but it's gonna be a little bit slow, and I use it for business, and slow means less money, and that's not good. That's not good. But if it's for like a hobby and you're just, you know, trying to edit a few videos, runs a little slow, doesn't matter. Might be a little annoying, but it's not a deal breaker. So there we go. I'm gonna put the power to this thing, and let's see if I did it right. So whenever you plug these in, they'll usually spin up for a second and then power back off again. So it's spinning back, it's spinning up. So we're going to wait to plug in our keyboard and such. I'm just going to give it a second. And then And there it goes. It's turning off. One of these days, maybe I should read up, see why it does that. Not really important thing, so I never thought about it. But yeah, it might be something to look at. Just out of curiosity. Why does it spin up and down? Alright, we're going to plug in Divi. And now, I don't have this thing connected to the internet, so even if it runs, it's going to need to, we're going to need to update that video card to get any kind of resolution. But that's not a problem. We're just testing right now, so let's see what it does. See if we got a usable computer here. Everything's spinning up. And there, it's posting. I turned it off by accident. But you'll see. There we go. As you can see, it's posting. I've got a real good system here, don't I? But it is working. And as you can see, I'd installed Windows on that hard drive already. So, bing, bong, boom, it's loading up. So, there you have it. Again, don't see any problems with it. Everything is looking good, and it's a good idea to save money. Another thing is you're keeping all of this stuff out of a landfill. If you can repurpose these things, then somebody is going to be happy. Somebody is going to get a system, and whether or not you sell it to them or however you do that, whether you just gift it, I may gift this to someone in the family. However you do it, it's a good thing. You get, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, you get to work on a computer, like me. I enjoy it, and the final product is somebody in your family gets a computer, or somebody you know. So, appreciate you sticking around. It's a little bit boring, I guess, for a lot of people, but if you're into computers, maybe you found a little bit interesting. Please like us. Please subscribe to the channel. Got a lot more of these coming up, and maybe some other interesting stuff. Have a great day.